It's finally 2018 and 4K cameras aren't something of a privilege anymore. Even phones have 4K, action cameras have 4K, but there are a few challenges that may keep you from filming in high res even if your camera is capable of 4K. So first one is space. Suddenly your files are super large, so you need a lot of extra hard drives. Second one is that you will need a quite expensive memory card because now you're writing from 100 to 200 megabits every second. And the third one is that your computer specs have to be quite high, namely your CPU. So I found a solution or workaround around that last issue, and it works for me, and I wanted to share it with you because someone else may find it useful. So basically what I do is I take 4K files from the camera and downscale them to the size my computer can handle, and I edit all the video in low res, and after I'm done with the editing I replace all those downscaled files with my 4K footage. And the way the most video and audio software works, it's just everything falls into place, and with minimal tweaks you have your project done, and you don't have to deal with all those lags and throttling and all those annoying issues. And it's not just 4K. For example, if you're doing your projects in 1080 but you're using an old laptop, for example you're traveling, or maybe an old laptop is all you have, you can still use that approach to speed up your editing process. So let me show you my workflow on Premiere on Windows, but keep in mind that in theory it should work with everything. So about the downscaling, obviously you can do that in any video editing software or video encoding software like VLC or Handbrake, but I think video editing has to be as fast as possible, so I made a script. And it might look complicated, but all it does is that you just drop it into the folder with your video files. You launch it and it takes every video file and downscales it and puts it into a separate folder and keeps the original files. So let's launch the file, and while it's cooking let me just show you what you can do with the script. So there are a few settings. First of all, you can edit those lines to change your resolution of your target downscaled files. Also, you can change the name of the folder, and you can choose the speed and quality of the downscaled files. So for example, right now it's rendering at about 1x, so that means that for every second of video footage it needs an actual second of your computer time to process it. If you want to make it faster, you can change your codec speed. Basically it's has to do with quality, but I made it that it runs on the fastest preset possible. And you can also decrease your target file resolution or your bitrate. So bitrate is that number. So if it's 0, it's lossless. If it's 51, it's just crappy, overcompressed, like 100 kilobits per second quality. If you don't want to mess with anything, you can just keep the file as it is. Those are the reasonable settings I found. So you can find this file in the description below, and obviously it's for Windows, and if you want to use it on a Mac, I believe the only thing you have to change is that you have to remove this file extension, and in theory it should work. If it doesn't, just let me know, I'll try to figure it out. And also, in order to run this script you need to have FFmpeg, and you probably already have it, but if you don't, just download it. It's free and it works on every platform. And don't forget to update your path variable if you are just installed it on Windows. Okay, so after the script has done its job, there are first of all, there is a folder with 2 files, and those files have the same names, but they are low res. And you can see that the resolution is basically a quarter of Full HD or 1/16 of 4K, which is a good balance between resource friendliness, and it still has enough details in order to edit it and even do some color correction. So now let's drop those files into a Premiere project. And I'll throw in one extra file, which is a screen capture. And this file is not downscaled, so I'll just throw it in as an example and show how to deal with it later. And so let's pretend we do some editing. So for example, we throw a file on the timeline. Maybe we just chop it up a little, do some ripple editing, maybe add extra layer of maybe some picture-in-picture thing. Let's probably add a border to it, and let's add that screen capture footage as well. And let's make it a small overlay as well. So for example, let's make it, yeah, perfect. So let's assume we've finished the editing and everything is perfect, everything is lined up, and you can probably see that it plays back quite smoothly, even though I'm running it on a 2nd gen i5 and it's running a screen grabber software at the same time, obviously, so the CPU is quite busy at the same time, but the playback is quite smooth. So what we have to do now is that we just save our project, and basically we just let's close it first, and what we have to do now is that we have to delete those 2 downscaled files and replace them with our 4K footage. And keep in mind that the file names should be the same, but my script takes care of that, so you don't have to worry about that. Yeah, so we just reopen our project and see what happens. So now we reopened our project with 4K files. It did not freak out on the launch, however it looks a bit like a mess. But basically what happens is that since we used low-res files when we created the project, the sequence is low-res as well. So all we have to do is find it and replace the resolution with actual 4K dimensions. So it's 2160, right? And it freaks out a little, just ignore that. And you can see that those 2 files, those 2 images just fell into place, and all the editing, all those edits and chops stay in the place. So first thing that isn't right is that our little screen grabber footage is now super small, but that's because it wasn't rescaled, and in that case you just changed the scale of the footage. So since we were using the resolution which was like a quarter of each dimension of 4K, so it was 540 instead of 2160, I think. We just have to multiply the scale by 4, and it's magically fell into place. And also you can see that the border on that overlay used to be larger, obviously because it's now upscaled. It became thin, so you can just do the same, and now it's done. So you can see that we edited our footage in low res and then replaced the low res files with 4K, and everything fell in place. And everything that didn't fall into place, it's just a little tweaks here and there, and it's done. And for example, if I try to play that footage right now, that would be a catastrophe because that's 4K. And but we don't have to deal with that because we can now edit in low res and everything is smooth and fast, and the high res thing is just a final stage. All you have to do is just export your footage in high res, and there you go. So thanks for watching. If you know any better ways to do that, let me know in the comments. If you have any questions about that, just ask me. And yeah, see you in the next tutorial. Cheers.